Hey everybody, how's it going? I am John, or most of you probably know me as Joseki from the Discord chat and on Reddit and stuff. I'm one of the designers on Duelyst, and today we're going to be doing a pretty casual, informal kind of dev chat where uh, my pal here, Umbrella, and I are going to play some games. So why don't you introduce yourself, Kevin?
Yeah. Hey everyone, I'm Umbrella. I'm Kevin Umbrella Holmes, as you may see on your stream. I do customer support and design on Duelyst. And yeah, we're here to have a good time, try something a little bit more casual than what we've done in the past, but still, you know, have a good time playing some games. So let's get to it.
Yeah, so as we're just kind of like play and just kind of like you guys can watch us play and it'll be fun and whatever. And then also, if you guys have questions in chat, I'll try and keep some track of the chat, and you can too, Kevin, and we'll just try and like answer questions. Uh, the kinds of questions we can answer, you probably already know. Like if you have any questions about the design process, our testing process, how we go, like how Duelist gets made, essentially. We can definitely answer questions like that. Those are probably like the best kinds of questions to ask us. We're going to spoil a card on this stream, but we'll do it when we damn well please, and not anytime sooner.
That's about right.
All right.
Our webcams got artifact defilered, so we did not have time to draw another one. We kept replacing into it, but just didn't quite happen in time.
Yeah, AKA my Skype kept crashing, so we're doing it live.
I thought that is very clear that that's what I said.
Cool. So you're playing Starhorn. That's sweet. I know I'm in for a treat. I'm a doggy.
Yeah, you're a dog.
That makes you an animal abuser, Kevin.
That's okay, because I think, well, it's not okay actually, but I think we're an interesting match.
Cool. So yeah, like I said, if you guys, the chat moves pretty quick, but if I'll be tabbing between, and I have chat open on my phone, and when I see stuff, I'll try and answer it best I can. Someone asked when the expansion is getting released soon. TM. I don't know if we've officially said I don't think we've officially announced the exact date yet. But we wouldn't be doing spoilers unless the set was basically ready to go. We're just kind of wrapping up the final details on it. We've been working on that set now for, 4 months? Is that right, Kevin? Something like that?
Yeah, that sounds about right. It takes a while it goes through lots of iteration and phases, so we're pretty excited to finally be able to bring this set to you guys. It's something that, it's testing, but we've been playing with it for a while, and we hope you guys love it as much as we do.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I think that one of the cool things, about this set is usually when we're designing the sets and we're going through it, they're done a little ways before they actually get out, before you guys get them. Like this set's been done for a little while now. But we try and accommodate, player feedback as much as we can into the design of those, design of the set. So, for example, for the last several months in Duelist, a lot of our players have commonly said that aggro is too strong. So one of the things we tried really hard in Rise of the Bloodborne was to ensure that more controlling style strategies had really effective ways of getting to the late game. I think most of you have probably seen Punish by now. That's probably an example of that card.
Everything that we've been spoiling so far is completely locked in and ready to go. From the design side of things, the set is completely ready. It's just, it's being implemented. It's being grown on the tree of Duelyst so that we can share it with you guys. But other than that, anything you see in the reveal is going to be, in general, it's going to be final. I'm sure someone in chat's going to say, but Dust Whaler ganged flying, and you're right. Sometimes Dust Whalers will gang flying. But other than that, when we spoil a card, we like for it to be ready.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Pelafan asks, when you create a new spell that's an answer card, how do you determine if it's the right cost or power? That's kind of an interesting question. Most of the time, we try and avoid printing super obvious meta-solving answers. We try instead make some pretty, oh my god, Sphinx! It's too real. I'm going to get burned out. So yeah, most of the time when we're printing these sort of like cards that like clearly are targeted at a certain deck style or just helping solve a certain problem in the metagame. When we're trying to find the good cost to power for ratio of those, it's always a matter of balancing how ubiquitous those cards are going to be played, like how often you see them in ladder, versus how overall effective they are. So a good example of that is like Rust Crawler, where you do occasionally see Rust Crawler in competitive decks. It's by no means a staple, but you do see it from time to time because there are particular metas where artifacts are very popular. Hmm.
So when someone like an Alcuin or a Twilight Sorcerer is grabbing a Bloodborne spell, they are grabbing the spell, but it's not the same as it having come from your general. So that is a spell that your general casts, but your general is not casting it. With Blood Surge, we're trying to show that this is synergy with the general. This is things happening directly because your general is doing them. And so for that reason, it's only going to be your Bloodborne casting spells that triggers. And that Komodo Charger did not protect my back.
The sacrificial Komodo Charger did not fulfill his duty. Rhymes Fat as Rhino asks, which is a great name, will this expansion be an adventure or just packs? If packs, why no pre-order? We're going to be announcing exactly how we're releasing the set in the next couple days here. I think at least very soon. And there'll be an article up someplace about how you can acquire these cards. Cool. Someone asks, how does auto-include cards like Holy Immolation and Spectral Revenant keep being ignored for so long? So these cards aren't really ignored. A big part of it is that we know that whenever we nerf something, new cards are going to flourish and come out of that, right? So for a long time, and I guess leading up, Lionheart was a good faction. It was a played faction, but it wasn't nearly as talked about as it is now. After the most recent ballots patch, where we did some nerfs to aggro and Reva in particular, we saw that Argion became extremely strong. And this is sort of like the consequences of things we test for. And we kind of knew that Lionheart was in a really good spot after these changes because they've been so consistent and untouched for so long. But that's kind of part of a growing metagame, right? And part of it is that if no matter what we do, there's going to be best cards. There's going to be cards that people just love to play with. And we want to ensure that the cards that do end up being the best cards are fun, and the people who play with them enjoy playing with them. So Spectral Revenant's like a card I think most Abyssian players love to play with. It's very powerful. It's very fun. It has a big impact on the game, and we want to encourage, we accept that some cards are going to be played much more often than other cards, but we want to ensure that the cards that do get played are fun and interesting and offer good gameplay.
I saw a good question in here. It was two parts. For the first part, we don't want to talk too much about what you can expect in terms of like card specifics for the coming set. But so when you see something like when you look at a card, and this right now mostly happens on Ancient Grove, but when you see that it has Opening Gambit and it does something to the state of the game, that's going to stay even after the minion goes away. So a card that changes your Bloodborne spell with Opening Gambit is going to have that as your Bloodborne spell even after the minion's gone.
Yeah, and the card we showed today, I think it's Sunbreaker, that one changes your Bloodborne spell for as long as it's in play. So there is a distinction between those two things. And, we kind of felt like Songhai is a little bit less reliant on sticking minions over the course of the game. They play from hand a little bit more. So we wanted to make sure that with a card like Geomancer that they got the effect they wanted out of playing the card versus a faction like Lionheart where their core identity lies much more in maintaining board presence with their minions. So, when we're thinking about whether to do Opening Gambit versus Static Effect, we think about those things.
It's true. I did just try to replace. There's a good catch from a pro player, but I did not play around my own riddle.
I'm not purposely playing bad to make Songhai look more balanced, by the way. I'm just tabbing between chat and the game and trying to keep. It's very hard to play Duelyst when you're only looking at the game for like a quarter of the game, with the time the game is going on. So, okay, that's a big one.
It doesn't help that I intentionally thought Sphinx would make the game more difficult to play on stream, which to me seemed really funny, and it is successfully doing that, and that's not great.
Nah, I don't know. It's a beat up.
It's tough. A question, are there going to be more fabulous cards like Cone of Horns? I'm glad you think Cone of Horns is fabulous. You are someone that card is for, absolutely. It's a very fun card. And yeah, absolutely, there will be more cards like that in the future.
Oh, for sure.
I abstractly think describing them as fabulous seems perfect. It seems like a apt description.
Yeah, so we have a question. People really like the Frostfire reward chest. It's a great incentive to do more quests and play the game. Are there plans to release more skins as rewards in the future? For sure. That's we definitely like card skins. We're glad people enjoy them. The riddle. Possible to change cards like Astro Crusader. We don't really like buffing cards. We kind of accepted that Astro Crusader definitely missed the mark on what we wanted it to do. And there's a lot of cards to test. We're always testing like basically hundreds of new cards, so it's tough to give everything equal attention. But at the same time, it takes a lot of resources and time for us to consider buffing and nerfing cards. It's a very long process. It requires playing many, many games of Duelyst for many hours. And it's not really just a matter of changing one card, right? Because if we change one card, that has a ripple effect across the game. Now, all of a sudden, from when we were only going to change one card, and then it's like, oh, but changing this one card totally unbalances the game in this way that now this certain particular thing is dominant. So we're always sort of on the lookout for making sure that when we do decide to change stuff, that it doesn't have this like massive, devastating impact on the game, which it absolutely does sometimes.
It's also worth noting that sometimes cards, and I'm not saying this necessarily will be true with Astro Crusader, but sometimes cards become better over time or find a home in a deck that just isn't around at the moment. So sometimes a card comes out and everyone's first impression is, we can't use this card, but you give it a little bit of time and it's like, oh, we should have always been using this card, or something less extreme as well.
Necrogue Faust asks, could you go into detail while a certain faction gets a card over another? Punish feels like it should belong to Magmar with their masochist themes compared to Abyssian. It doesn't have any hurt effects to begin with. It's an interesting point. There's a lot of nuance between what faction gets what thing. So, for example, in the case of Punish, Magmar cares about their own minions getting hurt. They don't care about their opponent's minions getting hurt. So it's like sort of a small distinction there between the two things. Magmar likes it when their own guys get damaged and then they can buff them, or there'll be some cards coming up all about that. Oh, God, I'm getting brutalized. So there's subtle distinction between the things, but we kind of have our own internal color wheel, if you will, in terms of what factions get what and why. So it's not necessarily a super simple thing. Oh my God, there's a riddle. I guess I'll play it. So yeah, I mean it's it's complicated. Like for example, Lionar doesn't have token minions. That's a fun fact about Lionar. They probably never will. That's not something that they do. I mean, you can't never say never, but.
Will there be War Master synergy in the expansion? So War Masters right now, War Masters are the synergy for what they have going on, which isn't to say that they won't do other things in the future. But with a set coming out with a theme very focused on your general, it's not something that is likely to fit in the immediate future. I'm going to give you back this riddle. Wait.
I'm dead. You could also just kill me.
I don't know which one's you. You're just a dog hiding in all these cool units. Yeah, you're right.
Any more love for Golem cards in the near future? Definitely. Something we're super interested in doing.
Yeah, I think a fun way to phrase that is we do love Golem cards, so
yep,
that will not be discounted in the future.
Yep. We definitely look for more ways to embrace all the different tribes of Duelyst. So maybe in an upcoming expansion, you can expect to see more stuff like that.
Yeah. That was a good game one. I'm sorry that Riddle made it so much more difficult than I ever imagined it would have. It's like that's exactly what I wanted it to do, and yet it did it too well for the stream. So.
Yep. Someone asked, "Are you ever going to buff Rook?" Nope, I don't think so. I think Rook's good. That part of the fun of card games is bad cards, and I know maybe that's a controversial opinion, but I like bad cards. I like making cards that aren't typically used work. That's one of the great joys for me as a card game player. I've played card games since I was like 8 or 9, starting with Pokemon and Magic and Yu-Gi-Oh! And all these games, and I still play card games to this day in person. And one thing I found is that I love cards that are underplayed and underrepresented because they have interesting impacts on the game that you're playing them in. And you'll find that if you take some underrepresented cards in Duelyst and you bring them onto the ladder, you will have some really interesting games that are going to be really distinct and different from the games you're normally used to playing. So, to fully answer your question, Rook, part of his personality is that he's random and weird and tough to like imagine what he's going to do, and he's just like crazy. And part of that is that we don't want really good cards to have these super swingy impacts on the game, where the outcomes of games are being decided by randomness.
So. Will artifacts change? So what's described in that point you brought up is absolutely a good point, but you were very much outlining the pros and cons of artifacts. So what you list as a disadvantage of an artifact is when an artifact is created, that is taken into account. So like the core mechanic of artifacts aren't going to be shuffled around, and those weaknesses might be mitigated in some other ways. For example, sometimes Vitruvian likes to gain some bonus attack and not take damage for the turn, and that's pretty kind to their artifacts. But other than that, there's not a plan to just overhaul how artifacts work.
Yeah. We're as far as the mechanics of Duelyst go, they're pretty soundly locked in, I feel, at this point. We'll obviously be adding loads of new stuff, but for now, you can expect artifacts to not change.
And that sort of ties into another question about the Bloodborne spells, which is, again, Bloodborne spells are a very core part of the awesome Bloodborne generals. It's a very cool part of their identity, and we want to be really careful changing that any more than we have to. So it's not likely we'll be making changes to those unless it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where we changed Kara because we felt like it was really, really hard to do anything new. That any neutral minion we make has to be understated because the old Kara Bloodborne spell would just take it to ridiculous proportions. It prevented us from making rush minions because neutral Kara is really good when you can just put cheap rush minions in your hand. So the sort of downsides to us in terms of what we can do with Kara were clear enough that we decided that the right thing to do was to change it. Although that was like a 2-month decision process because we really don't want to change it because there are people who play Duelyst and they log in and it's nice to have some things that never change, some things that we're kind of always building around. It gives players stability. When you take a break from the game and you come back, your Bloodborne spells are the same and you can start building decks again. What's your favorite general, Kevin?
Oh man, I think my favorite general's got to be Starhorn, and that might just because I like drawing cards, no matter the cost, universally across all card games. But I guess I feel like, and I'm not sure if you feel the same way, which is everyone has their favorites, but for me, my favorite kind of shifts around to what we're doing at the time. So I would say like before Battle Pets came out, or like some of the small minions like Rex, I might have argued that Starhorn was not my favorite general, and it might have been, oh man, that's tough. It changes all the time, so it's tough to keep track. But I'm gonna play this RAR and then and then pass the turn.
I've never played around Warbird in my entire life. I've literally never played around it. I try and play around things, but there are some things that my brain does not cannot compute playing around. It just doesn't make sense. So
I see this isn't really a question, but I would like to confirm that Atlanta Rex Wintermute. I want to officially confirm that in case anyone is curious. And if Wintermute says something to the contrary, he's probably making it up. Even devs don't play around Warbird. I can't tell you how often I just completely forget, and it's such an important part of the match. Gravity. Well. What do we have here?
yeah, so someone asked a little bit more about the color wheel of Duelyst, and to be honest with you, one of the things about the design team is that we don't have like a book written. There's no like biblical truth to what faction gets what and what faction gets something else. A lot of cards end up in one faction, and then the change we want to make to them makes us feel like it plays better in another faction. And sometimes we design cards really with one specific idea in mind, and there's variance to that. And Lion not getting tokens was the example I used earlier, is something that has become true over the development of Duelyst. It's like whenever we have like a token card, we feel like it doesn't fit what Lion is trying to do. And that maybe will change, but for now, that's kind of the way it is. And Abyssian has like a variety of things, like Swarm, self-sacrifice is an Abyssian theme, like sacrificing your own things. Vampiric effects, things that damage your opponent while gaining new life. Magmar is all about big stompy stuff, and your general having lots of attack. That is a Magmar thing to the core. So in terms of answering your question, it's very flexible, and we view all the factions of Duelyst as having an ever evolving self identity that's not really dependent on any one thing.
I see in here something that we see sometimes, and there are a lot of very cool polish level changes that can be made to Duelyst. So something like not having a timer when you play with your friends is definitely a suggestion that's on our list, but it always comes down to like, what are we working on at the moment? And so what can be tough is, for example, right now, a lot of the focus is on this new expansion, and a lot of this focus is on mobile, which is coming shortly after. So those two things make it so... my turn just got more interesting.
Damn it.
We will do this.
That is interesting.
Play one of those.
Oh, God. I don't know what to do. I think I'm screwed.
And so that also comes down to things like another suggestion in here is improvements to the Bloodborne spell UI, or like the creep tile counter, are all things that are on our list, but are hard pressed to bump other things out of the way. So it's not that they aren't good changes, it's just that they don't immediately take precedent over some of our other changes.
Yeah, it's always a matter of balancing, what's coming up. Right now, a lot of our guys are working hard on mobile. Someone asked about that earlier. It is coming. It's a thing that's going to happen. Can't say one. What's my favorite legendary card? Well, I know what Kevin's is. It's like in play. I think I love Stormkage. Even though he's not super popular, I still very much enjoy playing with Stormkage.
You know what? I'm gonna do this.
Oh.
That's exactly what I needed here. I saw somewhere in here a question that is more about how we got involved with counterplay games, especially I know, or I'm sure John has told the story before, since he is on stream from time to time. But it's a good question. For me, the road, like the somewhat short version, is essentially I saw Duelyst on Kickstarter, and within 5 seconds thought this game looks gorgeous, and I hope it plays as well as it looks. And then I read through the page, backed it pretty much instantly, and when the alpha finally came out, got into the alpha, played pretty much nonstop, was constantly trying to be involved in the community, was working with Pato and Deceptical on a podcast, and we were doing all of these things just because we loved Duelyst, and essentially that led into a road where we were hired onto the team. So I think one thing that's really cool about Duelyst is you can ask pretty much anyone on our team, or I guess you can ask anyone on our team, they all also love Duelyst. Like, in addition to working on the game, everyone that works on Duelyst loves it. Even though, even Wintermute, as he continuously loses to Atlanta, still loves this game. So that's something that I think really shows in the game as well. Is you can really tell that everyone working on this loves this, ranging from the engineers to the artists. Just everyone loves Duelyst. Oh no, that's a lot of damage, isn't it?
It's not enough, which is sad. Yeah, I think I'm dead no matter what. I'll do this. Did I miss lethal because of that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. No, I didn't. No, I ran out of time. Bummer. It's all good. The downsides of looking at chat. Oh, I missed lethal. Sweet. That's good. Yeah, I'm trying to read chat while I play. It's so hard.
Did he really deserve lethal though? I think that's the follow-up question.
I don't deserve lethal. So someone asked how we balance around Gauntlet. So Gauntlet comes usually toward the end of a set design process, but it usually always is we're working on the set. We're thinking about Gauntlet as we design it. The rarities very much impact what we decide to do with Gauntlet, and then in the end we play Gauntlet a bunch. Their last few weeks of the cycle, and we make changes based on how we feel the cards are playing in Gauntlet, so long as they're not super, as long as they're not super egregious to the constructed play. We'll make changes that fit the Gauntlet better. I'll die an honorable death.
He's dying to Chimera's truly honorable. I think that Chimera, just in case anyone was wondering why he's in this deck, I think he just made a Wraithling to prove that he belongs.
Yep. He's on the same team.
Exactly. So the question about it says, why do you shoehorn cards for shoehorn? Starhorn likes to draw cards. He likes to keep his hand full and play lots of little things and punish your opponent for having a full hand, and that's just kind of what he likes. So it's not really shoehorning in that we're giving him what he does. I mean, I understand your question, but that is what Starhorn wants to do, and we're just letting him do it.
Yep. Yeah, when people are like, you're printing support for this or that, it's like, but he's in the game. We should support him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not very much more complicated than that for us. It's like we just look for interesting ways that we can make each general have its own unique deck styles.
Are you a dog again?
Oh, I'm a doggy.
Specifically engineered to make me feel bad. We kind of touched on this before, but yeah, the cards we reveal are going to be the final version, except in very rare fringe cases where they're not. But otherwise, they should always be.
Yep. Who of you guys is responsible for Reaper of the Nine memes? I don't really think anyone's in particular responsible for it. It's really hard to say. Like, one thing, is that the design process is very collaborative. Pretty much no cards survive in their initial form to print. They go through many iterations. Just Shimzar had 90 cards or something like this, and the Shimzar set probably had over 400 designs, tested, or iterations on those designs tested. Every card had at least 2 versions. Some cards had 5 or 6 versions. It's a large commitment of energy to figure out, exactly how these things work. So, when it comes to balancing these cards, we definitely have to spend all this time cycling through tons and tons of versions and really just picking out the best ones and the ones that we feel showcase what we're trying to capture best. Battle Pets went through probably over 10 completely different mechanical sets before we landed on a mechanic set that we liked for them.
So this question is something that I think in some form gets asked from time to time. The general question is essentially just, do we have lots of stats? And the answer is yes. We do look at lots of stats, including when cards are played, division. We have access to all sorts of stats that we track, but we like to keep those we like to keep those to ourselves for a variety of reasons. It's not just we enjoy knowing things you don't, because that's definitely not it at all. But a lot of times, yeah, the follow-up question is what I'm already answering. A lot of times the stats either just confirm what everyone already knows from playing the game, in which case having the stats doesn't really do anything except make people angrier. If something is true, if we know of a problem and we are working on fixing it, if people also have the numbers, they can look at the numbers and say see, these numbers show you haven't fixed it yet, when often we're already fixing it. There's lots of other factors. The other thing about it is sometimes the numbers wouldn't make you feel better anyways. I've definitely seen very heated discussions about, oh, this specific thing is definitely true, and we all agree about it, and then you can check in the stats and it's actually not true. But it doesn't matter that it's not true. If the community at large feels a certain way, that's sort of the same thing as the card performing in that way.
Yeah, there's lots of examples of cards that community members complain about, or there's a lot of discussion around, and then we look at our stats and it's oh no, this card's reasonable. It has reasonable win rates across various divisions. People enjoy playing with it, etc. It's it's pretty normal. There's definitely no one thing that's right or wrong, and oftentimes problems problems people often have with cards have to do more around their play patterns and how they're used in games, and less about the fact that they're overplayed or that they're slightly too strong. Lots of cards in Duelyst are very strong, so it's this is pretty standard. How are the mechanics, art, and fluff of a card combined? Lots of different people doing lots of cool stuff, mostly, which is part of the awesome things about working in this team is that a combination of people work together to do the initial designs, and then another combination of people work together to do the art. So in general, the process is we'll have ideas for art and sound and things like that, and we'll start putting them together, start making them all function and work, and then by once we have like kind of some skeleton down for what we want like a set of cards to look like, we'll bring in Keith, who will look over it, start brainstorming the art, the flavor, the lore, things like that. We'll start sending off some early concepts to artists. They'll develop those out and start getting putting together a cohesive vision for what the set's actually going to look like in the game. And all during that time, the design team is continuing to work and iterate on the cards. So sometimes they change, and sometimes we actually have to design to what art exists. So, for example, it'd be really weird if Chimera was like a 2/2. So for balance reasons, Chimera pretty much will always have a big body because he's a big sprite. So he's got to have a big body. So when we're designing cards and balancing cards, we actually take the art into to care a lot when we're thinking about it. Please explain why Geomancer gives Phoenix Fire. So this is a kind of design ethos of some games. For us in particular, it's that Phoenix Fire represents a staple Songhai card, like Baby's first Bloodborne spell, right? Like you wake up, you're gonna have to go and like fight or whatever. You're like day one Bloodborne training, and you're in the Songhai faction, and it's just like you got to learn how to cast a Phoenix Fire, right? Like that's like the first thing you got to do. It's Baby's first spell. So to us, Phoenix Fire symbolizes something very special about the faction. It tells you what the faction's about when you see it. So anytime we can take existing stuff that is resonant already with the current way people play the game, we'll definitely look to use it, because I think casting Phoenix Fires is super sweet, and I'd love to cast them more.
Yeah. So, and I think that approaches the question from the design level. And the other question we see about some cards, so I think a good example, you see some in chat, people are saying like Ironclad looks like he should be bigger than a 4/3, and that's totally valid. For Geomancer specifically, it's at least a little interesting in the sense that I understand people like to emphasize the word geo and say that's earth, but geomancy is traditionally drawing energy from the earth. If you look at Final Fantasy Tactics, for example, geomancers draw various elemental spells directly from the world around him. And that's sort of more of the vibe of what Geomancer is going for. Geomancer is drawing from the inner fire of your general and turning their Bloodborne spell into a Phoenix Fire rather than drawing from the earth, which is just a way... It's understandable that people are interpreting the other way. It's not crystal clear, but that's the direction it's going. So hopefully that helps clarify people who feel like, in this case, we missed the mark, because it's very possible if it doesn't resonate with players, then we're not arguing that it's actually a great success, but we are saying that what we envisioned it being is a little bit different than what other people seem to think, which sort of implies, both that it's different and that it might be a little less clear, which is understandable. I feel like I could have done that turn much better, but I did not.
Yeah, I feel that about every single one of my turns. So people keep asking about tribal, but when it comes to tribal, we're not going to tag every minion with a tribe. Not every minion belongs to a tribe. Some minions are just minions. But we are going to do more with the tribes and more new tribes, in the times ahead.
Someone named "How do I delete my account?" You should contact customer support. They will let you know. But there's more of a question for there. Let's see. Can we nerf Serpenti? I lost to that. Serpenti is definitely way too good and definitely needs to be nerfed, but we probably will never touch it. So you'll just have to enjoy a world where Serpenti continues to crush every game you play. And I'm sorry about that.
Man, this game. Holy Immolation's a good card. Turned it around. So keep in mind, guys, the kinds of questions we're going to ask are like purely design related, and in general, there are many more reasons and a much longer process behind all of these things than any one quick answer can give. So we're doing our best to give, answers that are at least somewhat satisfactory, but it is difficult to, completely answer any individual concern about the design of the game or the card pool or anything like that. So it's tricky.
I see this question coming up a couple times, and it's the question, why can't Xerix place his Bloodborne spell? And I guess the point on that is mostly that was a question when we made the change. We were pretty open in addressing and explaining why we felt that way. People didn't necessarily agree with us, but our stance hasn't changed on it. Xerix's Bloodborne spell is not going to let him place the Dervish.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna tag in someone from chat, see if he helps me out. It's something. It's something.
Yeah, some answers are unsatisfactory, unfortunately, guys. The depth of many people working together to come to something is that there isn't really perfect answers to most problems, and we do our best to ensure that the things that we do put in the game satisfy a large variety of criteria, not just the criteria that one specific set of players will enjoy. We try and make sure that there's a wider range to the kinds of things that people do with the game. So Colos the Dragon asks, have there been a single month of Duelyst where you guys felt like the meta was balanced? To which I sort of contest by saying balance is a completely subjective thing. There is no canonical definition of what a balanced game looks like. There's no, oh my god, Crescent Spear. There is no way you can look at any card game ever and say this is balanced, like completely objectively. There's always going to be subjective counterplay between cards. There's always going to be strategies that are outshining each other for reasons that aren't numeric, that have to do with the way people view the game at a particular time, or what particular strategies are prevalent makes other strategies weaker or stronger. And that's a big part of the reason why I think I enjoy card games so much as opposed to games like chess or Go, which are games I've played seriously in the past, is just because there aren't really right answers in card games. There are subjective answers based on context, and every single turn or every single deck you build is a puzzle you're solving within the greater metagame. So, to answer your question, I think in a sense, Duelyst is better or worse balanced based on my criteria, but my criteria is very likely much different than your criteria. So it's tough to say.
There are plenty of metas where, there are plenty of metas where everyone feels like something should be different.
I ran out of time. No, I was talking too much.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, I think really there's just no right answer. Your definition of balance is probably different than mine, and it's probably different than whoever else you ask. So it's hard to throw around a term like that without really respecting the fact that these kinds of things are context driven and not absolute. Yeah, this is what happens when you talk and don't really pay attention to the game.
I'm
Um,
positive I have lethal, but I'm not positive I can get lethal. So chat, feel free to let me know that I had lethal and messed it up, but I'm going to go with a not lethal play.
Cool. So, see here. So let's spoil a card. Right after this game, we'll do it. And we'll show everyone the new Abyssian card. Do you play any board games in the office? Every single person at Counterplay plays loads of board games. We love board games. We have an office. Not everyone works from an office. Some people work from home. Those of us who are based out of San Francisco pretty regularly get together to play board games. Eric Lang, the game's lead designer, was initially in town, and we all got together and played board games at a local cafe, and that was quite fun. So,
it was definitely a good time.
Yeah, we definitely, we have our own little board game collection. We play stuff that comes out, and we're definitely involved in the board game community and kind of what that's all about. Is this lethal? I can count it. 1, 6, 7.
Finish the game faster.
I don't know if it's lethal or not.
We'll see, but it might be okay.
No, it's not. You also have force field, which I didn't notice because I wasn't looking at the screen.
That's mostly.
Now we're gonna kill this lion instead.
Oh, I love that lion. I love you, groovy lion.
Yeah, so I'm on a laptop, so I'm tabbing between the game and chat and trying to read the chat to answer your guys' questions.
All right, we'll put a hold on questions just for now as we're gonna reveal the card. So take it away.
Yeah. Cool. So this is an Abyssian spell. This is earlier I kind of alluded to this idea. This is a design that we've kind of had for a while for the Abyssian faction, and a big part of it is again making sure that there are ways that slower or more controlling decks can punish people who are playing overly aggressive. And there's the chat's going crazy, so I'll try not to look at it right now. But the idea here, right, is that we like careful and cautious aggro, right? We like it when you're playing an aggro deck, but you have to position extremely well, and the minutia of how you maneuver your units has a great impact on the kind of way that your opponent has to play against you. I think you guys already are kind of familiar with this with Holy Immolation. When you're playing a super aggressive deck, you can definitely, just get smashed by Holy Immolation if you're not very careful. So we wanted there to be more cards in the game that care about positioning, give you pause before you just go face with all your minions. So this should be pretty interesting to see it out there. It does cost 6. It's a bit expensive, but you do get some Wraithlings for your trouble if your opponent overplays into it. So it's kind of bad. This chat's just oh my god, crazy.
Yeah, and I love seeing everyone's reactions. I always love closely following these spoils and seeing what everyone has to say. Yeah. It's just great to see the whole range of emotions. It's great to see people already figuring out. I saw someone said this is awesome if they just embled you, and it's yes, exactly.
The Wraithlings you get are your Wraithlings. You kill their minions, and then they turn into Wraithlings for you. But yeah, I mean, you and I, we read the Reddit every day. I read almost every thread on the Reddit. I also read pretty much every post that gets made about a spoiled card. And, there's over 100 posts every day, but I do try and spend 30 minutes and read all of them, see what people are thinking. And when we put these cards out, we expect that everyone will have different reactions to them. I think that's the exciting part about these cards is we don't want to put out a card that's universally loved or universally hated. It's a lot more enjoyable, I think, for you guys, and it's more enjoyable for us when people have conflicting opinions and they can't decide if it's good, and they don't know if they want to put it in their deck, or they know, there's one person saying, I want 3 copies in every Abyssian deck, and the next person is saying, oh, maybe you play 1. So that sort of balance of opinions is, what makes you guys such an awesome community, is that you're always sort of engaging with, these cards and finding out really interesting ways to play with them that, we don't fully understand yet, even when we design them.
I love the animation, the spell animation for Necrotic Sphere.
It looks so sweet. Good. Super Saiyan mode, man. And yeah, another thing too is just like when we put out a Duelyst set, we test it a ton. We play as much as we can. I think maybe in one day of our community playing Duelyst, they play more games with the cards than we played in the entire testing cycle. Would you say that's probably true?
Yeah, and that just comes down to just the sheer excitement of the new set, the sheer number of players. I mean, we test these as thoroughly as we can. We're cranking games. Wintermute is just losing over and over again to Atlanta. But at the end of the day, as soon as the set comes out, the community in one day has played more games than we possibly could have during the whole testing cycle. And that's where you catch a lot of little things, right? We generally have an idea of what's to come when we hand a set off to the community, but a lot of the nuance of it is definitely left there for you to explore. It's definitely discoverable for everyone, even us.
Yeah, even us. And, I think it would be really boring. I think it's actually kind of a sign that we wouldn't be doing our job very well if when we put a set out, we knew exactly what the meta was going to look like. And the truth is we don't, right? Like we make the stuff, we kind of have we write down our predictions. We actually have a meeting where we do predictions. We say like, these are going to be the top decks. Here are some lists. Let's see what the actual lists look like. And we compare our stuff to what you guys come up with. And what's really cool about that is that we learn more and more about the game that we're working on, and you guys learn more and more about it, and you're engaging with this new stuff. And it's just crazy. I think sometimes we get it right. We occasionally nail a couple aspects of it, but for example, Blistering Scorn, the degree to which Blistering Scorn was popular, we didn't really expect. We thought it would be more like Rustcrawler, where it gets, play in decks that really need an answer to Swarm, but it's not universally played, and that turned out to be very untrue. So it's, we do the best we can, but we're definitely not always right, and I think that's definitely the fun part for us, is seeing where we didn't get it right and how you guys totally reimagine what we thought the metagame was going to look like. So yeah, there it is, Necrotic Sphere. Pretty good one, I think. I would expect some people to play this card, but maybe, I don't know, I could be wrong.
We'll see. We'll see if people play it. They have a bunch of spells, even with just the 2 reveals, a bunch of spells to cram into very limited slots. So it'll be exciting to see what people end up doing.
So it's funny, right? Because in the first 30 seconds, there was posts like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever, to this card's unplayable, right? Like literally the next comment was, this card's unplayable, after someone said it was amazing. So it's cool. I love that. I love to see that. I'm excited to see where the community lands on this card in particular. And the truth is too, is sometimes we make risky cards. Sometimes we're like, man, this card's really risky. It might be way too good, but it wouldn't be fun, for you guys if we didn't, give you stuff that you could break, you could like really try and beat. And so we always try and give the full range there. Necrotic Sphere, I think, used to do something differently. It used to like, at one point it like did stuff where it like buffed Wraithlings. Like this card went through a ton of different designs, but I'm really happy with the one we landed on. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, and you can see in chat a lot of people are really excited to play it. So
yeah, super cool. Yep. We can do a couple more rounds of questions. We can be done playing for now that I got completely wrecked by Kevin. And, if anyone has a couple more questions they just want to throw out there, we'll answer a couple more. And I think we'll probably sign off. It's Friday night. It's 5 p.m. here.
Yeah, and thank you to everyone, from all over the world that's here, because we know there's a range of people, including people that want to be out Friday night, and it's 8 p.m. for them. We know a lot of you, it's a completely different day, and you're starting the day with Duelyst. So thanks to everyone who made it out here. We definitely really appreciate it, guys.
Someone asked if there's more cards that are going to come out that are uniquely released, like the Seven Sisters. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not opposed to it.
Seven Sisters were definitely cool, but that was it was a huge initiative on many fronts, including, it's extra art, which is awesome. It's extra design. It also had some cool cipher with it, so it's got a whole lore bit that was incredible, a whole mystery to it.
Those minions, dude.
We definitely had a lot of fun doing it, so I wouldn't say it's off the table.
Someone asked how many cards are in the new set. There are a bunch of cards in the new set, and that's all I can tell you. I promise there are, how many cards have we spoiled? 7?
Yes.
There are more than 7 cards.
8 we've spoiled, I think.
Okay, there are more than 8 cards in the set.
I think it might even be safe to extrapolate that there's more than a second card per faction. But is there a third card? We'll see. And I know there's people out there looking at the rarities of what we spoiled going, there's at least this many. You're probably right, too.
Someone asked if we ever would do like a banning cards in Gauntlet to help balance the Gauntlet. Balancing Gauntlet over the long term is definitely something we've been discussing more and more as of late. Whatever we decide to do will probably not be a direct copy of what any other game does. It will probably be something that we decide works uniquely for our community. And, if someone makes a thread on Reddit and suggests ways to balance the Gauntlet, I'd be happy to read it and see what people suggest. We're always open to suggestions. What we decide might not be exactly what you say, but we read it, and if someone in the community has like a really great idea, we'll definitely consider it. We definitely take your guys' feedback really seriously. So,
yeah, much like we were saying with Core Duelyst. In addition to that, you guys play more Gauntlet games in a day than I've ever played, because there are so many of you that just love Gauntlet, continuing to queue into it. I try and get maybe a Gauntlet in a week or something like that, but there are people that have played more Gauntlet in a month than I probably will ever play. So, and that goes back to us always keeping our eyes out. We're always on the Reddit. We're always in the Discord. We're always just interacting with people post game to just get a feel for how you guys feel about Duelyst, and that definitely shapes what we do going forward.
Someone asked about dealing with power creep in Duelyst, which is kind of an interesting question, and lots of people actually have different ideas of what they think power creep is, which is kind of interesting unto itself. So it's actually somewhat hard to have a discussion about it, since people will talk about it in different ways. There's a great video on a YouTube channel called Extra Credits. If you poke me on Discord, I can link it, talking about power creep in general, and I kind of like their view of how they think about card game power creep. And, we definitely take it into account. We just go, is this card much better than any other thing? Because, it's a tough balance, because on one hand, we want to make cards that are new and exciting and everyone wants to play with. We don't want to make a bunch of bad cards because we're afraid of making things too good. And on the other side of that, as we make stuff too good, we're obsoleting old cards. So the challenge isn't necessarily, there's some golden rules, right? Like just don't print the same card with better numbers. That's pretty obvious. The more extensive thing is when we print a card like Necrotic Sphere, this actually deletes a bunch of design space for other AoE effects that you could use with your general on Abyssian. So we're always trying to find cards that serve similar roles that have different contexts that can work together in unique ways. And, that way there's power creep is less of an issue, and it's more about the context by which you play the cards rather than just comparing numbers.
I've seen this question asked in 2 different ways, or actually a couple of different ways, but it's basically neutrals versus faction cards. So we definitely want... Faction cards are designed to be more exciting and more unique, and either give you access to something that you can't get elsewhere, or access to it in a way that's more efficient than getting it somewhere else. Something like Repulsor Beast versus Demonic Lore, both are good, but Demonic Lore definitely takes the cake if you have to pick one. So when a faction is using neutral cards, it's interesting to say they're using them over their faction cards, because you're choosing the neutral card because it does something that is more valuable to you than what you can get in faction. And so for things like Veteran is a good comparison, where from our internal playtesting, Veteran Silthar was too good if we didn't make it worse, and we made it worse, and now people are mostly not playing it. And the scenarios where you're going to want to use veteran are going to be decks where you are building around rebirth, which I'm sure chat's going to say, but I can't do that right now, or I can, but that's not the best deck right now. And that's valid. And in the meantime, you absolutely can rely on neutrals to fill those holes as we continue to make new cards and the meta continues to shift around what we already have in place.
For sure. Someone asked about what's the design decision in making a 1/4 provoke 0-cost card in Lionar. So one of the things, we actually dig pretty deep on what a lot of the feedback is, and this is kind of a cool example where at the time before Shimzar, and I'm going to say this and I'm sure everyone will disagree, we got a lot of feedback and a lot of us noticed that Lionar played in such a way that was called tempo negative, which means that when you do something as Lionar, your opponent could more efficiently answer it and develop their own minions onto the board. So the like pound per pound Lionar playstyle, like the turn by turn playstyle, made you drop off in tempo very quickly. So slow is designed as a way that Lionar could put a minion onto the board that contributed to the Lionar playstyle without having to commit resources, because Lionar is notoriously had a problem with being a little bit chunky and slow and more value oriented. So at the time in the game, slow made a lot of sense to try and answer that community concern. Slow is very popular now, as we know, which is good. I'm happy some battle pets are popular. So yeah, that's kind of the story behind slow. And we have ideas and concepts that we push forward with these cards, like things we're trying to address in the metagame or ideas we have to improve the metagame. And it's all about change. It's all about adaptation. It's all about new stuff. So.
Cards like, so it's always tricky when you compare a card to another card of the same type. So for example, if you say, well, slow costs 0, but rock pulverizer costs 2, it's one of those things where slow is a battle pet. Battle pets are costed differently. But even for things like why are Ooze and Fizz better than Amu? And the reason for that is because Amu is like the extra battle pet. Like if you want more battle pets in your deck, you probably are using one or both of your faction battle pets. And if you're looking for more battle pets, then that's the role that Amu fills. So even though they're all 3/3 battle pets for 2, they fill very different roles. And so the reason you're not seeing a lot of people playing Amu is because they're not trying to build a battle pet deck, they're just putting some battle pets in their deck. So Amu fits a really different role, even though it looks very similar.
Yep, definitely. Amu, the extra battle pet, the neutral battle pet. Cool. And then someone asked, just about in-faction redundancy, which is a pretty good point. Talking about cards like Martyrdom and Sky Burial and how they're very similar. They are similar and different and context-driven, and maybe one day, the way positioning works in Duelyst, Sky Burial will be much stronger than Martyrdom. It's very hard to tell what that's going to look like. So whenever we print a card, there are definitely cards we expect to be played right away, and definitely seeds we're planting for later. And it's always a combination of those two things that's keeping the game fresh. With this next expansion that's coming out, I really expect that people will try some new stuff. There are cards in the core set that we think when Rise of the Bloodborne comes out, we'll probably start seeing some more play, which is pretty cool too. I think that'll about wrap it up, guys. We've been doing this for about an hour now. I think that's pretty much our time limit here. I just want to say thanks everyone so much for coming out and asking us questions and engaging with us. We love doing this. It's really fun. Hopefully, we'll have some more people on here to do something like this in the future. I think it went pretty well.
Yeah, I think we all had a good time. It was a lot of fun. It was a nice, more casual, just sort of open discussion. A little bit shorter than our roundtables. A little bit more focused. But I think if this is something you guys liked, let us know. If there's something you think we could do better, other than the very obvious webcam, please, because if we do another one of these, we'll make sure that our webcams don't get destroyed before the start. So we're really happy everyone came out here. Hopefully you guys had a good time too. I think
All right,
that's
guys,
it.
take care. Yeah, take care, everybody. Have a good weekend.